connection before content. My view of the world is I want to create connection. And yes, content's part of that. But without connection, it doesn't matter how much content you're pumping out.
Welcome to Content Kingdom. This is your backstage pass to the people, tools, and the trends shaping the future of content marketing.
And welcome to Content Kingdom. I am joined today by Brian A. Hall. Brian, how you doing this morning?
Doing great. I love that we both use our middle initials.
Oh, yeah. Got to have that middle initial, man. You always been Brian A. Hall. What does the A stand for?
Alan. It's my Uncle Al. Yeah.
All right, cool. My middle name is Gardner. If you tell anyone, I'll kill you. But anyway, so Brian is here to talk about something that I think is amazing, which is like content in law. Man, does that sound boring.
Boom, let's go.
Boom. That's what we've got to do in here. So, Brian, I used to work. So actually, before I asked you the question of how the hell do you make legal content interesting, I used to work in a bolt factory, and I was thinking about that, getting ready for this. I was like, well, somehow, some way we make bolts interesting. If you can make bolts interesting, man, shit, you should be able to make anything interesting. But you make law interesting. And so how do you do that, Brian? Tell us a little bit about content in law and what you're doing.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, whether it's interesting, whether it's informative, whether it brings the eyeballs and therefore what you're trying to accomplish, that's what it boils down to. But I'll tell you a little bit about kind of our genesis story with content. All right. So, we started a law firm 20 years ago. And at the time, most lawyers weren't doing a lot of content online. Yep. A lot of big law firms hadn't figured out that that's a way to shoot up the Google rankings and get search engine optimization and all the rest that goes with it. So we had a hypothesis, which was, what if we dominated the web with our niche practice areas? We were a firm that was based out of Northern Michigan. We knew that our client base was not necessarily going to be there. So yeah, there it is. So we had to figure out a way to get clients, on the coast and in the practice areas that we were focused on, which was tech, intellectual property, and companies that do those things. So we started doing a ton of content and launching various websites, going and getting, domain names, having them link back to each other, going and getting authority from third parties to bring our content to the eyeballs of our target consumers. And we shot up, and it worked. And we were able to land big clients doing important litigation and big transactional work in our practice areas because we were one of the early adopters of content.
Got it.
So content is king from that standpoint, all right. For sure.
So, okay. So, and I didn't even mention that you're with Traverse. Is it Traverse City Legal or is it just Traverse Legal? What is it?
Traverse Legal.
Traverse Legal. Yeah, right. But that comes from Traverse City, which is that northern town you were mentioning, which is a pretty little town. And that's where you were based when you got started with content, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's pretty funny. Traverse City is kind of where we started, right? So the Traverse has that component, but it is a bit of a double entendre, right? Traverse, to change, to go across, and that's part of our ethos and mission, which is change the way law is practiced. And it really started with, again, content. We were able to drive leads, we were able to get prospects, and we were able to get clients because we dedicated, and this was early in my career, David. I was right out of law school spending 3+ hours a day drafting content and then learning to practice law. So big part of the history.
Got it. All right. So that's awesome. And yes, now you're a big time firm in Austin, Texas and all that stuff. And that's very cool. But yes, these Traverse City beginnings and now you've traversed the country. So let's start with the early days, Brian. So you're right out of school. And by the way, that's a tough place to be. Having been a consultant when I was 24, I felt like I was marketing the new wine, like nobody wants to drink the new fresh wine, right? You want the old vines, right? And that's a tough place to be. So walk me through the first base hit, or maybe it was a home run. What were some of the things in that early days when you were just getting started? What was the content that worked for you back in the day?
Well, heck, let's talk about two things there. First of all, let's not forget the industry I'm in.
Okay.
Law.
Law.
Okay. I mean, you alluded to it at the beginning. Typically, dry,
Yeah.
typically very conservative, typically a lot of old white males with gray hair are what people are looking to have as their attorney.
Yep.
I don't fit that mold. I still don't fit that mold. Okay.
No, you
So
don't.
the beauty for me was if I'm online and I'm creating content, I can show that I'm a thought leader. I have quality stuff, and then I will get clients based upon that so I can start getting the experience to show that I have results. As opposed to we were big named firm with 5 different partner names and here's all the stuff we've done. So the content world and the way the internet enabled us to become and go from a startup law firm to where we are now was it was just the perfect mix. And I'm not sure I'd be where I'm at without it. Okay. So, the first big win to answer your question was we landed a client, Wonderground, Weather Underground. It was based out of Ann Arbor.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah.
heard of those guys.
One of our big first clients that we did work for, and it was my first major trial. And that wouldn't have happened without the content. And they were in Ann Arbor, which was convenient to the Michigan base, and then the lawsuit was in Detroit. But this was a major company, and it kind of set us on this path of, like I said before, getting a result that then we could push out as additional content, and the snowball started to roll.
So walk me through something that seems like it would be a little bit tricky to navigate, and it's something that I struggle with too, which is, you have attorney-client privilege. You've got things that they say that are confidential. How do you draw the line to say, hey, we helped Weather Underground win this suit without kind of maybe saying things that Weather Underground would have been like, dude, what you put that on the internet? Like, help me walk me through that. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, so keep in mind, anybody can go look up right now that case, and it's all public record.
Okay.
They can see the result. They can see everything that happened. It was made public. We're definitely not disclosing client confidences.
Sure.
We're not violating attorney-client privilege. And the reality of the world is if I'm going and trying to use testimonials and leverage existing clients, I have an agreement with them that says I can do that. Okay. So it's really a non-issue, but I think you hit the nail on the head that people create all these obstacles to why they do not create content, especially lawyers, especially 20 years ago. Right now, it's become more norm, and everybody can be they have a platform. But 20 years ago, again, conservative lawyers not really looking to modernize their business, let alone grow. We're okay with these types of things. And we were actually, in a lot of ways, and my partners would say this, we were kind of ostracized from the old guard of lawyers, especially where we were up in Traverse City. That's definitely changed. And I think our missions proved true. But it felt a little different back then.
Okay. All right. Got it. All right. So that's the back then. Where would you say is the inflection point for you? Where's the point where stops being like a kind of the scrappy underdog and starts becoming kind of like the choice for your niche? When did that happen, and how did that happen?
Yeah, I think it's still happening. I think that's, and maybe that's just part of who I am. I'm hungry. Complacency is not something that's part of my world. So I like having that chip on shoulder, feeling that, that the back in the day being ostracized. It just drives me further. And I think a lot of the people that we've attracted to the firm have that same belief system. So I don't want that to go away. That being said, when we transferred or grew and opened the office here in Austin, which was about 11 years ago now, I led that charge to open down here. We landed some big clients. We started to get some big results, and now the word's out there. So we're fortunate and feel happy that that's happened. But that inflection point probably started 11 years ago, and now we're just building on top of it down here in Austin. Still have our Michigan contingent, and we've since expanded to Los Angeles as well.
Okay, so walk me through your strategy. Like, who do you want to reach, and how do you reach them with content?
Yeah, it's a varied strategy.
All right.
So, if it depends who's pushing the content and
Yeah.
what audience we're going after. So, from a firm standpoint, it's always been let's figure out who we want to represent. Then let's identify not only practice area, but industry niches within which we can push out content.
Okay.
Okay. That's different than what my personal content strategy is.
Oh,
My
okay.
personal content strategy is more on the thought leadership side. I run a newsletter and push a ton of content out called the Value Added Advisor, which I'm gearing that towards high net worth individuals, C-level executives, influencers, change makers, decision makers, because I know that if I get in front of them and they like my content, they like what I'm, doing and adding value for them, that ultimately that should wind its way back to some business. And that's proved to be the case. If it doesn't, fine. Because I take a lot of joy in creating content. It's a good creative outlet for me.
Okay. Well, I just pulled up really quick. You're talking about your newsletter that you do on LinkedIn, right?
Yep.
All right, cool. Let's take a quick look at this, and if I click the buttons correctly, I won't screw this up. There we go. All right, great. Hey, here it is. Okay, so here's your LinkedIn, and you've got your newsletter right here.
Yep.
So this is the Value Added Advisor, and
That's right.
you got 42 editions of this thing. So how long have you been doing this?
So I try and do for this one dedicated post per month.
Yeah.
So what are we coming up on? About 4 years.
42 months. Yeah. So, all right, pretty consistent. And so walk me through your system, because if you're this disciplined and this consistent, what's your system for making sure that you've got good content out the door?
So first of all, I want to be crystal clear. It is not AI driven.
All right.
Never has been, never will be.
All right.
And there's various reasons for that. One, I told you before, like this is a creative outlet for me. I enjoy doing it. But the other reason is, and David, you'll appreciate this. We've heard this phrase in EO and in some of the things we do together, which is connection before content, which is kind of interesting because we're here to talk about content. But my view of the world is I want to create connection. And yes, content's part of that. But without connection, it doesn't matter how much content you're pumping out, right? So the whole purpose of this is to create that connection with my audience, be it clients, prospective clients, friends, family, I don't care, right? Average Joe off the street. I want them to read my stuff, have it resonate with them in some way, and deem that it's something they want to keep going back to. So when I think about and you hear people talk about, well, what's your content strategy or what's your content calendar look like? Well, my content calendar is I make sure I post one of these at least once a month. Sometimes it's more. And then what's my actual strategy? My strategy is simple. It's what have I experienced in my day-to-day world that I believe others would also find valuable? And I'm very personal in those things. I talk a lot about friends, family, trips, all the things. And hopefully I pull it all together with a message and a takeaway action item.
Yeah. The first one that came across my my feed was your post about the playbook for how to do out of office, which was super handy because I think that's something I definitely screw up and sometimes leave loose ends out. And I thought that was pretty great. But yeah, as we look through your different stuff, it definitely is a lot more, for me as an entrepreneur and as CEO, it's stuff that really kind of resonates with things that I need to do. And some of them are big, life things, and others are small life hacks, but they're always interesting. And okay. So now help me make the connection. So you're putting this out there, you're connecting with all these people. Connection before content makes sense. What happens next? How do you convert these, subscribers? So you got a lot of subscribers on this thing. How do you convert subscribers into, the next level of relationship with you and with Travers?
Yeah. So again, kind of, I'll bifurcate them. For me, it's less about people reaching out, reading those pieces and saying, "Oh, you're a lawyer, by the way, let's talk law." Like that naturally happens fine. But on the law firm front, it's very different. We have it set up in a way where, we built years ago Salesforce out knowing that we were going to be attracting more and more leads. And that was a ton of online leads, obviously a lot of phone calls and the rest. So we built the infrastructure to support what we hoped our content would lead to. And that has been something that we've continued to develop through the years. So, there's a whole system. We receive a lead, we respond to it right away, we ask for more information, we route it to the appropriate person. And then, if we're a fit, we engage and we're off and running with a traditional attorney-client relationship. If we're not a fit, we pass along. And then the other big thing, David, that we've been able to do is we've created certain things that are, fixed fee offerings where they're one-offs, where somebody might reach out and say, "Hey, I need this particular regulatory contract." And they go to a paywall, they make the payment, and we provide the deliverable. So we've not only done it to create the traditional attorney-client relationship, pay by the hour models, but we've really iterated on that and created fixed fee offerings, fixed fee deliverables, things that are more akin to probably the product world than the service world. And we're continuing to do that.
All right. So some pretty serious innovation here in the legal space. Yeah, fixed fee, I think, puts a lot of people at ease. Well, I'm going to amend what I said earlier. I was joking when I said, it's super boring. I think it's something where I would amend that to, it's not at all interesting or relevant until the moment I need a lawyer. And then it's fascinating, right? Then I'm dialed in,
That's the truth. And I've had this conversation with, I'll never forget, I was on a fishing trip with my uncles and dad. We go on every year. And one of the guys that came, I'm newly minted lawyer. And he looks me straight in the eyes and he goes, "I fucking hate lawyers." and I respond to him. And my response was, "Yeah, until you need one." And, everybody laughed. But lo and behold, multiple times throughout his life, he did. So that rings true today for not only him, but I'm sure a lot of these listeners and you.
Yeah. Until you need one, not that interesting and then fascinating. So cool. So Brian, when you're thinking about content for Traverse City, I keep calling it Traverse City, Traverse Legal.
All right.
When you are thinking about so you've got your brand strategy and that's great. And you're making relationships. You're the leader of the company. You're building trust. You're doing all those things. That's cool. Is there anything extra that you're doing for Traverse so that the law firm itself has other things that really drive it forward? And what's that look like?
So I'm a big believer in doing things that attract the talent at a company, our firm, that create this kind of magnified effect. So one of the things that we're very intent on is, when we're trying to attract talent and bring people to the firm, we're very big on mentorship and equipping our people with things that will make them more of a holistic practitioner, right? Most people go to law school, they get their law degree, they go and they figure out, I'm going to practice in this one niche and I'm just a lawyer. That's fine, and there's a place for that. But what I have found in my career, not just for myself, but for others who have come in that I've mentored, is if you create a more well-rounded individual who has not just a practice of law, but a life beyond that, right? They're active in their community. Maybe they're part of boards or volunteering. They're good family people. All that stuff goes a really long way. And I think, if I bring it back to the content piece, a lot of the content talks to that kind of stuff because most law firms do not, right? Mm-hmm. Law firms are historically known for being billing machines, right? The meter starts and it runs and they do well. But how many lawyers do you meet, David, who say, "I love the practice of law. I love what I'm doing"? Keep trying to figure it out, man. Yeah, the answer's zero. Uh-huh. And it doesn't have to be that way. And what we've proven 20 plus years into this firm is that it's not that way and it never will be that way with us. And I hope we get to the point where clients appreciate that more, perspective than existing. I think we're getting there. And also that newly minted lawyers seasoned practitioners, people who are kind of towards the end of their career, but still have that itch to have meaning and impact in the practice of law, know that there is another way. And if we get there, I have no doubt that we will have been a big part of that.
Okay. So are you saying then that your content isn't just about the acquisition of new clients for the practice, but it's also about attracting top talent? Is that part of what you're doing? Okay.
How can you be a better lawyer? How can you run a better law firm? A lot of the content that I put out there is, talking about our experience running EOS, which I know you're familiar with, right? Traction and the rest, and how that revolutionized our law firm and how we implemented it, how we continue to utilize it. So, in the law practice management space, I speak a lot on that issue. I put out a lot of content on that issue. And I've had people ask me, why the hell would you do that? Why are you trying to equip your competitors? You're never going to get a law firm that pays you to be a client because they're going and doing what they do. And my kind of retort to that is, and this is something my partners said all the time, rising tide raises all ships. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that. Again, if we could start to help these other law firms modernize, it's only going to be better for everybody.
Okay. It's funny. The more of these Content Kingdom episodes I do, the more I see that mantra from, content and thought leaders is really, it seems to me like there is almost like a fearlessness to what you're doing. Because I think a lot of people are saying, well, I don't want my competitors to know about this great thing or that great thing. And it seems like what I'm hearing from people like you is a lot of you guys just say, F it. If they want to copy us, they can copy us, but we're going to be the lead dog here. And we're just going to put it all out there. So has that ever backfired on you, just out of curiosity?
So first of all, it's a great point. And people are really good at coming up with excuses as to why not to post content. Yeah. I've seen it from newly, minted attorneys who say, look, it takes me too long. I need to make sure everything's perfect and everything's right. Look, we're not trying to push out content that's false or inaccurate, but that's an excuse that just doesn't seem to ring true in my experience. You also see people talk about, look, I'm a private person. I don't want to be transparent about stuff. And that's fine. There's a place for those types of people too. But at the end of the day, we're kind of in this society that most people's privacy is less than it used to be, for better or for worse, right? So I've always been of the belief that what you see is what you get with me. And I think that's the ethos of the firm too. So get that stuff out there and see where it leads. Now, has that led to any backfiring? Shit. Over 20 years, I'm trying to think. I know we've received things about being, maybe too aggressive in positions we've taken relative to certain, news topics or ongoing litigation that we're not involved in. Every once in a while, I'll receive something that says, hey, you stated this. I actually think it's that. And my view of the world is awesome. That means we have engagement, right? But I can't think of a time where somebody said, I was going to hire you, but then I read this piece that you wrote and I'm not going to. Maybe that's happening behind the scenes, but I can tell you with certainty, David, that I have more people than I've ever had in my life come up to me and say, hey, man, I read your stuff and I love it. And that feels good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. So, all right. So, what I'm hearing is a constant theme from you is eliminating excuses for writing content. You were like, well, excuse number one is attorney-client privilege, but for all the public stuff, there's that. And then the next excuse is I don't have time, but and then the next excuse is, well, everything's just covered out with AI, but you actually enjoy it. And then the next excuse is, it might backfire, but or my competitors might copycat me, and you're just kind of dismantling those. So give me like two more bullshit excuses that people have that you're like, no, that's an excuse. Like, can you think of anything else that like is another reason why people make their own excuses for why they are not producing content?
Yeah. I mean, and I so want to say excuses are like, insert word, everybody's got it. But so the other one I actually hear a lot is, well, I'm a lawyer, I bill by the hour. Why would I spend time, my finite resource, writing content that doesn't pay me? And again, it's an excuse. It's a fixed mindset statement, because the reality of the world is you are missing out on an opportunity to magnify what you do. And I look at it very differently. There's content that I wrote years ago that I'll get an email and says, "Hey, I read this. I have this issue. Can you help me with it?" Yep. Right. Built-in business development. So that excuse of like, I can have a higher and better use of my time, I don't buy it. And then, if I think of any other excuses I've heard, it's more along the lines of, this is getting old and I'm running out of content. That's a big one. Like, I don't know what to write about. Writer's block. Well, here's what I'll say to that. I said I don't use AI for my posts, and that's true.
Okay.
But if I'm at a roadblock and I want to interact with AI to ideate on something to post about or write about, it's a great tool and it's endless. So people can do that. The other thing is, when I'm trying to like be too prescriptive with my content, that's when I run into a roadblock. But if I just go through my day and I think about the nuggets from interactions I've had with people, or David, we've been on many conferences together, right?
Yep.
And we've heard speakers from all over the world. We've traveled the world together, a bunch of different things. If you can't find inspiration and content in the everyday, you're not paying close enough attention.
All right. Well said. Well, hear that, everybody? There's no freaking reason why you should ever not be producing content. So ABC, always be contenting. So
I like it.
yeah. All right. There we go. Now, Brian, you mentioned something that is near and dear to my heart and yours as well. I am the former president of EO Austin, and you are a month and a half, 6 weeks away from becoming the president of EO Austin. Congratulations. Why don't you talk for a minute about what EO has done for you, and germane to content and thought leadership? What's been some of the highlights of the Entrepreneurs Organization for you?
Yeah, I mean, quick. I'm not going to get sappy, but quick tip of the cap to you. I mean, you've did your time, you put in the effort, and you've been a mentor to me, and I appreciate all you've done. So, take that, please. But in terms of EO generally, I mean, this, the content is endless. I just alluded to it about the various conferences and leadership training we get to go to, the speakers we get exposed to, from authors to, successful athletes to the most successful business people. It's endless. Not to mention just the other members who are living kind of what I like to call just normal lives, everyday stuff. They might not be, on TV, but they're in the boardroom. They're leading tons of people. They're generating tons of revenue. They're doing special stuff. They're making an impact. Those are the people that I love getting the stories from, right? Everybody can tune in and hear from, we saw Magic Johnson, and that was amazing. But,
That was cool.
look around you, for sure. We have 20 plus members of EO Austin. Every one of them has a story, and I'm proud to learn it, and I hope to tell it.
So you went last month to the Global Leadership Conference in Honolulu, right? And for people that don't know what that is there's 235 chapters of EO around the world. And so the leadership of every chapter, and these are all entrepreneurs like you and me, they all come together to Honolulu. And, there's a whole bunch of, leadership training there. Give me a highlight from Honolulu. I didn't get to go this year. So what's a top highlight from Honolulu?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, the highlight is always the getting together with the other members and the new leaders of the chapters to hear what their plans are for the year ahead, and also how they're intending to create essentially a vision for their chapter. Right? Because when you have those discussions, you learn what makes people tick. You learn what's in their history that's driving them to do certain things within the organization. So that's always the highlight. If I want to talk about something bigger and sexier, there were a ton of amazing speakers as always.
Ooh, I'm jealous. So this is the part that I always dig into. So who's your favorite?
I mean, I'm trying to think who would be. What I heard from a lot of people were the Soul Surfer. Do you remember? I believe her name's
Oh, right.
Bethany
She lost an
or
arm or something
Brittany.
like that.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
she was there? Oh,
she
that's awesome.
she was there and she came to speak about, amongst other things, perseverance and how, what she went through. She's obviously now a world-renowned speaker, not to mention there was a movie made off of her. There might even been a book, but she talked about her entrepreneurial journey, right? And the product offering she has. So getting those types of, insights is amazing. Ryan Holiday was there, who I'm a big fan of him.
Another Austin
The Daily
guy.
Stoic, amongst other things.
Yeah.
He's actually going to come speak to our chapter as well, but he always brings it. So he was fantastic. You can stack up so many of these speakers over time that, have made an impact.
That's awesome, man. I think that's great, and I'm super excited to see Ryan Holiday if he's coming to Austin. That'll be
For sure.
fun.
Yep.
His bookstore is a place I've been meaning to go visit every time I drive by the
In
street.
Bastrop, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
All right, great. Well, Brian, so walk me through what you're thinking about. You did mention AI, and you drew a bright line. It's like AI for thought leadership is cool. AI for phony content, not cool, which I respect and I agree with. But as you think about the next evolution for you and for Travers, what kinds of content, either content tools, content sources, outlets, what are you thinking about? Where's your future?
Yeah, I mean, AI will be leveraged. There's no doubt about it. Because I will not, at this point in time, use it for my newsletter, for example, or my personal stories. That doesn't mean I'm not going to leverage it and use it for content, either generation or improvement across the firm. And I think that's a powerful tool that can help other people create content within the firm. Because what we always tell people is, especially our younger attorneys or attorneys looking to develop their own books of business, is leverage these tools and get stuff out there so that you're starting to be someone that people seek out. And again, we've talked about all these excuses. If AI helps eliminate some of, if not all of those excuses, great. Count me in. Okay. And then I think it's also important to recognize that content is rarely static. And what I mean by that is we go and repurpose a lot of our old content. If we found things that got a lot of eyeballs or we got a lot of inquiries and people reaching out about something, we'll repurpose it and bring it to the forefront, whether that's industry specific or otherwise. And I think that's a really important thing. And you start to see trends with content. You see what people like, what they don't like. We used to have a running joke that we could write the perfect blog post that had the best law in it, the best references and all the rest. It would finish second and third at least to anything where we posted a picture of a dog or a kid, right? And that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And I've seen certain things with just my content on LinkedIn and otherwise that, gosh darn, you got to get that connection before the content. And that connection oftentimes is the image, or it's something that makes people feel something that says, I'm going to take the time to read this.
Got it. Well, Brian, this has been awesome, and connection before content is great. If people want to connect with you, where do they go to do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn. My handle's Go Brian Hall. Simple enough. So I purposely don't use the middle initial A for that because it looks like Brianna Hall. Like all my tickets when I fly anywhere. But that's a great place to go. You can also go to traverselegal.com, which is the law firm, and find me there. So.
All right. So go Brian Hall to meet Brian A. Hall on LinkedIn.
Right.
That sounds great. And that's awesome. So Brian, thank you so much for an adventure in the content kingdom. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Who is the influencer or celebrity that you don't want to admit that you follow?
Probably more sports oriented, right?
All right.
Maybe your Michigan Wolverines, some slappy in that world who's talking about the football team,
Oh, come on, little brother. It's all right. Anyway, best piece of content you ever made?
Oh, that is a good one. It would probably be a video on how to implement EOS at a law firm.
Oh, that's pretty cool. All right.
Is it pretty cool? It's maybe start reaching out to a law firm.
Yeah.
Describe the worst photo of you ever.
Here's what I'll say. If you look at a lot of the pictures of me growing up, my wife will say I look like the guy from Breakfast Club.
Which
the,
one?
the blonde haired nerd. So there's a lot of those photos with braces and all kinds of things. So you can't pick one. I can give you a whole booklet full.
What is the most photogenic animal?
Most photogenic animal. I mean, let's be on topic here. It's the lion
There we
Right?
go. Yeah.
in the kingdom.
All right. You know, that's such a base hit. Nobody ever hits it. So well done. Favorite movie?
Goonies.
Really?
The Goonies is all the right things and all the feels, from Cyndi Lauper singing to all of it. Sign me up. I'll watch it every day.
If you had to look in your crystal ball, how many years until AI completely eliminates the need for websites?
I thought you were going to say until it eliminates the need for lawyers. And I was actually hoping like 2 or 3 years. But need for websites, I don't think it's going to happen.